Before we get into this episode, you are invited to our 4-day in-person training to become an intuitive psychology coach in Edinburgh on the 16th until the 19th of March 2026.
This is an in-person intensive learning experience where you will be trained by myself and Jill directly to become an accredited intuitive psychology coach, but places are limited. So head on over to the website for full details to secure your place.
Hi everyone and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Intuitive Psychology Podcast. We're back with a new season. I am your host, Jill Ritchie, joined by my fellow co-host, Sarah Gregg.
So excited to be here today.
Yes, okay, we are diving straight into a topic that might be quite triggering for people, but we're bringing it because I think it's a really important one. We've both experienced it individually, also as a team probably, and we have had so many clients, and in our work that we do, we see it quite a lot, is how high performers protect themselves.
And it might not be what you think.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this extensively in our work whenever we are observing case studies, whenever we're working with coaches and our own kind of extensive coaching career. And what we've noticed with high performers is that there is a secret fuel that is fueling that performance, that is acting as a protective strategy, and the change that happens whenever a high performer gets to that root, which can often be uncomfortable. So let's kind of talk about, first of all, what we mean by a high performer. Maybe you identify with that term and maybe you don't necessarily identify with that term, but let's just share like what typical attributes a high performer has.
Okay, typically, again, right, we're not generalizing, but it's what we've seen in our years of experience and also both personally. Someone that tends to work a lot of hours and is always really busy, never really sits down to take time in stillness, because it can feel deeply uncomfortable to take that time in the stillness. But we often dress it up of, I'm busy, and actually I love being busy. And here's the thing, I think with high performers as well, there's that fear of, I don't want to lose that drive that I have, because a high performer typically has so many incredible attributes as well that gets them the success, that drives them forward, that does the things that other people often aren't willing to do. But it can be super detrimental to many other levels of their life as well, because they're so focused and so driven. But what is underneath that's driving that force?
Mm-hmm. Typically as well, a high performer will really value themselves on their status and their accomplishments. So you might notice, for example, maybe in your own conversations, you want to bring up like what you've done, what you've achieved, because that is a symbol of like worthiness. So it's status, achievements, like you benchmark your worth on what you've done and what you've accomplished. So for example, I went to the gym 3 times this week, and then I drank my 2 liters of water, and then I had X amount of meetings, and I've done X, Y, and Z. So it becomes an external representation of their identity. In other words, my worth is conditional on how much I do and how much I achieve. When I'm in that place of achieving, I feel safe, I feel confident, I feel like myself, I feel slightly untouchable because I'm doing all of the things and I'm proving that I am good enough. And of course, that has a huge gain, because you become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So for myself and for the clients that I've typically worked with in the past, I thrive off that because it makes me feel good. And that was a huge part of my identity for a long time. I worked with clients previously, typically high-performing females who also had those attributes. Always switched on, always doing, always wanting and achieving more, harnessed an incredible ambition. We're passionate, we're driven, we're like to a large extent kind of like unapologetic. But here's the rub. In every high performer's journey, especially a high performer who's on a journey of their own personal growth, there comes a point when intuition starts to interrupt the protective mechanism of when I am working, when I am achieving, then I am good enough. Intuition starts to move in, and it starts to create this little disruption and upset in the present that makes you feel like something is missing. Something isn't quite right. I have all of this, but I feel off. I feel like this isn't enough. And typically the mechanism that a high performer will employ, we see this in our work all the time, is they'll work more, they'll do more, they'll set a different goal. They try to use the same strategy that worked before, but it's not working in the same way. And this is where the high performer has to get behind those protection strategies. And particularly for high performers, this can be a huge identity shift because it rocks your world whenever you have to really look below the surface. And it's why intuition is so important.
I love this, and I'm nodding as you were talking because I was definitely one of those people that kept going and doing more until I started doing this work. And I think there was that, would I say there was a fear? I felt like I was all in. I knew I couldn't keep going the way I was going. I look back, I said to you this morning coming in here in the car, I used to drive to Edinburgh every day for 8 o'clock in the morning. I would work till 6. I had two really like babies running a house, and I went to the gym every morning, and I'm like, how the hell did I do that? And I did it, and I picked up a good salary, and it was a good job. And actually I did it until I couldn't, until I felt so disconnected from my reality, from feeling everything the full spectrum of being a human, and until I started doing this work. Because I think sometimes there's that fear of, if I stop, then who am I? If I stop doing that. And that's the thing, like, you can still be, well, I guess what we're trying to say is we really want people to know that you can still be this high performer and achieve amazing things. And it's a yes and feel your full self and receive everything and have deeper relationships, richer conversations, real authentic alignment. Sometimes we think it has to be one or the other, but I think, to your point, Sarah, when we were both like that in the past, it was because of protection. It protected us, and it made us feel worthy. It made us feel worthy enough, good enough to be there and be in the arena with other people. But from doing that, it requires a lot of 2 fingers up to the world, and I will not be held back. I will not be contained, and I'm going to do it my way. But when we do that, the walls are up. And when the walls are up, nothing's getting in, including the joy. And I think for me personally back then, I would be like, I've got all this stuff and I felt so much shame around it. Why don't I feel the way I'm supposed to feel, the way that society's told me to feel? Did you feel similar?
Very similar. Very similar. I think I dance between like burnout and apathy.
Yeah.
So I was like always on, always taking on more projects, always pushing myself to like to be the best that I possibly could be. But it wasn't from a place, and this is where the intentionality is key. And we'll talk about some of the techniques that we use within the Intuitive Psychology Association that are specifically designed to really work with high performers to address this in a way that's like very rapid and very safe. But, you know, I would push myself all of the time to be more and do more, because at the core, that was how I earned love and respect and belonging. Like, that's what made me feel safe, like, in the world. And I think for many high performers, it's how we protect ourselves. Like, and it's very triggering. I can remember if you had said to me at the start of my journey, it's because you don't feel good enough. I mean, I would have punched you in the face.
Yeah.
Like, because unworthiness was the thing that I could never really look at. And most high performers, whenever they're working with us and they're coming to us, the core is generally the same. It's a generalization, but there's pattern recognition in our work. We typically see a high performer when they come in, they're approaching burnout, or they're apathetic to life, where they've just kind of like given up and they don't have their drive anymore, or they're reaching kind of the thresholds of their potential and they're self-sabotaging themselves. They can't go to the next level for whatever reason. And it's ultimately normally is distilled down to this core wound of like, I don't feel good enough, and I don't know who I am without the achievements. I don't know who I am when I'm proving my worth. I don't know who I am without the accolades. I don't know who I am without the status. And so we protect ourselves through the gold star junkie kind of approach. And so when we were working on our toolkit for intuitive psychology, it was very important that we looked and studied the typical attributes of a high performer. So we distilled them down across our extensive kind of personal caseload history, our own personal experiences, blended in the psychology with it as well, and looked at how do we create a dynamic, innovative diagnostic tool that enables high performers to quickly and rapidly get to the core root that we see prevailing like all of these case study experiences in a way that feels safe and a way that is faster than therapy, because a high performer in a coaching environment will run rings around a coach. Like they will just set another goal and achieve it. Like they'll
manipulate a
manipulate it.
situation.
Yeah. And they won't allow you to get to the core wound because it's terrifying. So we developed a scale that's very unique to us called the Intuitive Authenticity Scale. It's a diagnostic tool that we use combined with our techniques, where we're moving the high performer into a deep intuitive state. And this is really important because when we are in a deeply intuitive state and our intuition is active, it cuts through and it gets directly to the truth. So it removes the conscious programmings, the conditioning, the typical identity of like, this is who I am and this is what I do. And it enables the client to get to the core of what is really happening. So Jill, walk us through it.
And I just want to touch on that. The key word there you said is the client. So the client identifies the core, right? As Sarah mentioned before, when you say to someone, if you're sitting as a coach and you're like, yeah, you just don't feel good enough, the trigger,
huge.
That is massive. And so for a high performer, for anyone really, to be able to sit down and come to that realization themselves is so beautiful. And when we created this scale, it was so important to do it differently, because typically in coaching, you know, we've all heard of the wheel of life and it's all the external things, money, finance, relationships, jobs, and these things are great, right? But for the high achiever, we all know the high achiever wants to achieve a 10 out of 10 for all of that, right?
Exactly. And it feeds in and validates the identity.
Of course it does.
So when a high performer sits down and it's like, you know, maybe the relationship kind of like is a 7 out of 10, you know, but I'm going to make it a 10 out of 10. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do more. I'm going to be more. I'm going to make that person love me. I'm going to organize the date nights, all of that. It just prevails the existing identity. It just prevails the configuration of the identity that goes, I have to work more and do more in order to be worthy. What the Intuitive Authenticity Scale does is it strips it back to say, is the source of your motivation from a deep place of unworthiness? And as a result of that place of motivation, is that driving like unhealthy behaviors that never feel good enough? Or is that source from a deep place of like, actually I perform because I love it and I'm energized as opposed to exhausted? Do you know, a high performer typically feels exhausted by life. Here's another thing that I've got to do. Here's another thing that I've got to be. Oh, there's a new study that shows I need to be having protein. Now I need protein. Now I need electrolytes. Now I need to be running. Now I need to be meditating. It all feels overwhelming for a high performer because they want to be the best at what they do. This scale pulls a high performer into the intentionality. What is driving it? And how do we reconfigure your identity in a way that you can still have those positive attributes that are part of you, but we can harness them in a way that actually enable you to feel energized, motivated, that actually enable you to realize that your worth isn't conditional and gets you back to your core of like, I'm worthy just as I am.
And you can receive it. You can receive it all. So this is not about taking away everything, all of those amazing qualities that drive you and allow you to be, you know, a 6, 7, 8 figure business owner, or achieve everything that you want to achieve in your life. It's a yes and. So you get to have that, but you get to do it without the burnout, without sabotaging relationships, without putting your walls up and shutting people out. Like, how do you get to dance with all aspects of your life and actually receive all of that from a non-attached place and not make it mean anything? You just, as you really get to know yourself and dive deeper into that part of your intuition, as a byproduct, all of that greatness is still there. And it's actually, it just feels so different. We're evidence of this. And we have so many people that are
Yeah.
evidence of this, right?
I mean, this scale has completely transformed lives, and it's had the most incredible aha moments where we've had high-performing CEOs, males and females, high-performing entrepreneurs and business owners who have used this scale once and went, oh my goodness,
God,
I
yeah.
have just had the most profound realization. So the scale, Jill's going to give you some example statements. So just to take you back in terms of like how this practically works in a session. So obviously we're introducing it at a time where the client feels very safe. There's strong rapport. Safety is very important. As Jill said, we're not kind of like going straight in and going like, you feel unworthy. We're mapping out first of all. So the scale will be introduced at a time whenever we can see, okay, there are some unconscious drivers at play here that are creating resistance in the high performer's life. Like we said, self-sabotage, burnout, exhaustion, depletion, just feeling like something's off. The scale was developed using a mix of psychology. So we use a Likert scale. So it's a scoring scale. And that's really important because it's a way to quantify the change. And this change enables our coaches in particular to show evidence of like the movement between the interventions that they're using.
And high performers love evidence.
They love it. So like, for example, we've had some previous case study clients who have increased their sense of like worthiness, for example, by like 800%. You know, like
crazy.
Huge movements as a result of this. But the scale itself is only delivered when the client is in a deep state of like intuition.
Yes.
The conscious mind is switched off. The truth is readily accessible. And we're bypassing any conscious narratives by getting straight to the core, by asking for a numerical value. And that numerical value comes instantly into consciousness because intuition is acting really, really fast. So give us some example statements.
So there's, the way we measure it, there's a number of, there's 6 in total, which is worthiness, courage, acceptance, connection, trust, and awareness. And I think let's just touch on worthiness. So when we have someone in that deep intuitive state, we are directly talking to intuition. We're not talking to anything else. And so we get the truth. We get access to the truth straight away. So sample statements are, I fully receive joy and happiness. I feel good enough as I am. I feel grateful and worthy to receive more. I feel worthy to be fully seen by everyone, past, present, and future. I have a healthy level of ambition. I can praise myself and don't rely on others' opinions, status, power, fame, or other symbols to make me feel enough. I can receive feedback. So just a few in there. And it's interesting because if you ask someone that when they're just as they are right now, without taking them into deep intuitive trust, which is one of our techniques that drop you into intuition, you will get high numbers there. Yeah, I'm an 8 for that. 8, 9, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8. When we take someone into that, it shocks the life out of them because they're like, the word is like, the number is 2, 2, 3. Never really above a 3, Sarah, for a lot of those statements. And that moment a client has where they're like, wow. And if we think about it, 95% is the unconscious, then of course, as a high performer, like, I now need to address this, because imagine if I address that and I still had the drive that I have, what is possible in my life? What can I then achieve from a place of complete and utter worthiness and authenticity? It's a game changer for not just for high performers, for anyone really.
And I think that is the biggest mistake that we make about intuition, is we think that it's a nudge. We think it's spiritual. We think it's woo-woo. We think it's kind of like, oh, I'm in my intuition, when it is the direct communication with the unconscious. Like you said, from the conscious mind, a client's like, it's ego talking. The protective mechanisms are there. The walls are up. I'm an 8, I'm a 9, I'm a 10. I'm totally that. Because if I give you those answers, then you're going to think that I'm good enough. The walls are down. They're in a deeply intuitive state. The conscious mind, the blood flow, the level of activity to the conscious mind is decreasing when they're in like an intuitive state. And our technique does that, very evidence informed. All of a sudden then the truth starts to arise, and the truth that they can't avoid, but it's delivered in a way that feels very, very safe, and it's rapid into consciousness. And what this does is it enables the client to save time and energy, which, let's face it, as high performers, we love that. And the coach to save time and energy, because we've got to the core and we know what we need to work on, and we know we need to start to recognize and talk to those protective parts, understand the unconscious drivers at a deeper level, and start to shift that into more harmony, so that the client can operate still with that ambition, still with the drive, but not from a place of, if I do this, then it proves my worth. If I do this, then I am good enough. But from a place of like, I'm worthy as I am.
Yeah.
If I get to create this, it feels exciting, not exhausting.
Oh, I love that. And that's, I was going to say, you know, what is the benefit of doing it? Because maybe someone's listening to this saying like, I actually don't want to look at that. What would you say to someone who's like, well, you know, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to look at that part.
Oh, I'll give you a question actually. So if you are thinking of that, I want you to imagine two different paths, and let's use kind of contrast and realities. So if you continue on that trajectory, and like I encourage you to kind of close down your eyes, if everything stays exactly the same as it is, and you achieve more and you operate under that, how does life look when you operate under that pattern? How does life look whenever you move in that direction? And how does it feel? How does it feel? And then I want you then, you can even write it down. I want you then to contrast that with like, what if you change? Okay. What if you don't accept that your worth is conditional? What if you don't accept burnout? What if you don't accept that you have to be everything to everyone all of the time in order to be accepted?
Or shut people down.
Yeah.
Not let people in.
What if you could receive? What if there's more on the other side of this? And that changes everything. Like for me, I still consider myself a high performer.
Yeah.
I embrace ambition. I love seeing how far I can go or what I can do, but it no longer defines my worth. And there is freedom in that. I feel like I'm untethered, like someone has clipped out the old stories and I can just run into my full potential and go, oh my goodness, like I can explore all of this and there isn't a destination, and it feels so incredibly liberating. And this is what high performers get whenever they come to work for us, you know, come with and work with us, sorry. Do you know, we have multiple case studies and who coaches have worked with who have completely transformed their business. Their business has grown more. Their relationships have improved. They have launched like new products, new services. They take more time for themselves. They're going on holidays. And all of this is because they have looked and readdressed the lie that they've told themselves, which is, I have to do this in order to be worthy. Shifting that unconscious, but still harnessing their ambition and bringing the multiple parts of themselves into a greater authentic harmony where they can flow. That's when the shift happens. Like that's when the shift happens. So the invitation is, right, what if you do and what if you don't? What if you do continue on this path and what if you don't? How does that look and how does that feel?
Yeah. What are you trading? What's the trade-off of not doing it? You might, you know, when you said that, I instantly thought there will people that will listen to that if I don't do it. You know, if I keep doing that one path, what does that look like? The word came as safety. Again, people will listen and go, but yeah, it's safe to do that. It's not safe going into the unknown, but it is. It is, because it's not separate from you. That part you're avoiding, it is you.
And here's the thing. We're constantly in the unknown.
I know.
We're constantly in it. And it's just, do you live life on a repeated cycle of the same stuff over and over again? Do you continue to just recreate the same reality, but in a slightly different form? You change the job. I've got a different job now. You launch a new product or service. You move house, whatever it is. It's the same thing and just in a different external reality. So we're always in the unknown. That's a lie. It's not true that you're never not in the unknown. It's just you carry a safety raft with you that you think can navigate like life better because well, this is known to me. I know if I perform, of course you get like the hit of like feeling good. But let me tell you, by the 100th time that someone's gone, oh, you've done a really good job, you don't receive it that much. You're like, oh, they're probably just saying that. Oh, they said that, but they didn't say it in the right way. I think they kind of like, no one messaged me about that. Why hasn't someone praised me for that? Listen.
And the reality is you still don't feel good enough.
You don't.
That's the truth. Like you're still pushing for more. You're not pushing because like we talked in the first episode back on this season. You're not pushing because you want to have fun with it. It's like really from a place of non-attachment and growth and expansion. That's the real flex. You're doing it from a place of I need to be more. I need to just keep doing more. And actually it's exhausting.
It's so
It's
tiring.
exhausting.
And I think that's why most high performers like come specifically to intuitive psychology coaching for change, because they are tired, just tired of like, I can't do this anymore. But that's good, because when you feel like that, it means that you're ready for an identity shift, and it means that you're ready for a different thing. And here's the bit, like, you don't have to lose that part of you. It's just changing the intentionality. It's looking at the unconscious driver and it's just switching things up. It's changing the intentionality from which you're doing that thing, and life gets to be better on the other side of it. But you've got to trust your intuition and work with your intuition to really make the unconscious conscious and get off that same track of doing the same thing over and over and over again, because you're worth more than that.
Yeah, you deserve to feel and receive everything that is available to you. And I mean on every single level, from your business to your relationships, to your friendships, to your health, all of it from a place of deep connection, trust and safety. That's true success, Sarah. And everything else is a byproduct to that it's who you are being, not from a place of scarcity or lack, really dressed up as success. It's actually from a deep sense of I am worthy with or without the accolades, and the accolades just come as a byproduct. So yeah, important topic, important to bring this up, because I know there's so many high performers out there, and there's lots of you that will resonate with this. Listen, we get it. We walk the talk. We've been through it. We're not saying it's always easy, but it is necessary. It really is. If you want to feel a full life, it is necessary.